Hello, my name is Diedrich, your host, and this is Put It on the Table. Today is the beginning of a series of candid conversations in regard to the effects of domestic violence. I'd like to welcome to the table Norma Ward, CEO of Progressive Transitions Incorporated, and Darren White, Executive Director of Realize Potential Incorporated. With their combined experience of over 50 years, they are experts in the field of domestic violence. With that, let's open up the conversation. What happened? With what we know about domestic violence, what are some misconceptions that some?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity to sit here with my esteemed colleague, Ms. Ward. One of the misconceptions is that men aren't victims of domestic violence. Not a lot of men report it, but they are victims of domestic violence. And another misconception is that it's not happening with youth and teenagers, which it is, and it's actually on an uptick with youth committing domestic violence partners.
Statistics aren't showing anything of that.
Some of it are, but in our community, people aren't looking at teen relationship violence as domestic violence. But these kids are in the schools, they're putting their hands on each other, and they're dating, so that's dating and domestic violence.
Right. What are some other misconceptions?
I think one of the misconceptions that I've seen over the years is that women do not matter. And what I have seen in my practice is that men come in and they have been victims of domestic violence. So many times society teaches us that men are batterers, women are victims. But I don't even like to use the word victim. I like to use the word survivor. But I think what we have to realize is that this is a mutual problem.
Right.
And it doesn't get reported the way that it should. And like Darren said, what's happening now a lot is this is becoming accepted in young people's relationships.
Right.
Women fight women, men fight men.
Right.
It depends upon the dating culture that they're in, but so many of them are accepting of this. And this stamps it for them that this person cares about them. And also it's learned behavior. It is something that they grew up with, and when you try to talk to them about it, it is a difficult subject because it's not something they want to talk about. And I think that what we as practitioners try to do is we want to bring people together to understand each other, to learn how to communicate better with each other, and to learn that putting your hands on someone is not the way to get what you want.
Right.
Correct.
And with technology the way it is, with the phones and everything, and especially the videos, the music videos, what they're showing out there, almost glamorizing the violence against each other. What can we do to put a stop to? What can we do to?
Shows like this, putting it on the table, having these conversations. In our community, a lot of this stuff is not talked about. The old adage, what goes on in this house stays in this house, right? Don't put your business in the street. But if you're being abused at home or in your relationship, male or female, it needs to be talked about. You need to tell someone, because if this escalates, someone could definitely get injured and hurt badly or even murdered. So we want to in that by having people, if you're in relationships that are dysfunctional, verbally abusive, and definitely if they're physically abusive, we want them to seek help and get out of those relationships. Because we don't want it to get into a pattern where this person is being abused on a regular basis. So if somebody puts their hands on you, that is the time for you to be stepping away from that relationship.
Do you think bullying leads to that?
Oh, yeah.
When at a young age, the bullying, and maybe learned.
Yeah, I would say bullying is a form of intimate partner violence because a lot of people bully people that they know. When you start bullying a stranger, you bring something into the table. You rarely see a bully act by himself.
Right.
He has always got a group of people with him. I think that bullying can be the start, the groundwork for that, because if nothing is done to that person that's inflicting that on somebody else, they're like, oh, okay, well, I can do that to somebody else.
It's okay.
I can do that to a woman, I can do that to my girlfriend. And I think one of the things that Darren talked about that needs to happen is we need to get over the fear of reporting domestic violence. But again, when you report it, a lot of people go back, especially young people and women, to they've lost a mother behind domestic violence who got killed because she reported it. The father took her life or whatever. So I think we have to have more education around this. So many times when women come in, the partner is incarcerated, but he's calling on the phone, he's getting other people's phone numbers, and they'll call me and they'll say, you know, he's blocked on my phone, but he calls from other people's phone. That power and control can keep taking place even when you're not present, when that person that's doing that is not present. So it's a fear of, I just want to get away, but then sometimes when they get ready to get away, they can't.
And domestic violence happens in all walks of life.
Oh, yes,
Right? All shapes, sizes, and forms.
That's right.
So it's not just in the poorest of neighborhoods, it could be in the richest of neighborhoods.
Yes, this is a universal, international problem. When people don't communicate or come from different family dynamics, and one person has grown up seeing this, or both of them, and this is how they communicate and then get physical. I'll give an example of what I'm seeing more, because I work with a lot of youth. The kids in junior high and high school, their boyfriend and girlfriend, if the girl gets mad at the boy, she'll hit him, right? And then the boy, sometimes depending on his upbringing and how he was raised, may hit the girl back. But a lot of times the girls are really putting their hands on a lot of these boys. And what I really believe some of this is coming from is some of the shows they're watching, Basketball Wives, Love and Hip Hop. If you watch one of those shows, there's girls that are hitting each other and hitting their boyfriends on these TV shows, throwing drinks on them. That's assault, right? Now, if that happened on those shows with a young man or a man doing that to a woman, he'd be arrested. The show would be, he'd be kicked off the show. So some of the stuff that they're showing on TV is a double standard. But what I'm trying to get across and convey to the young people that I work with, both parties should not be putting their hands on each other. Keep your hands to yourself, right? Because once you escalate to the physical and you're hitting people, it's a problem.
Yeah,
It's a major problem.
Definitely a problem. What do you think?
I think that I agree 100% with what Darren said, and I also think that when people start doing this and then all of a sudden they stop and the other person has become accustomed to this, it's like many things can take place. When I'm in the high schools, they're fighting each other because somebody's trying to walk away.
Right.
What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And it becomes a group-involved dynamic. But I also think that when people get ready to grow out of this, disruptive thinking takes place. Because now you are disrupting what we are used to. We are used to fighting, we're used to arguing, but now all of a sudden you're starting to step back and change, and you're taking something out of somebody's life.
Right.
And I think that with parents, with married couples, with single couples, we have got to start to seek information. We've got to start to seek services. the fear factor in reporting and being involved in domestic violence is huge, but identifying it.
Right.
Yeah, like Darren said, they're throwing drinks, they're pushing, it's like, oh, that's entertainment. So naturally, people want to mimic what they see.
Exactly.
But exactly what they see can exactly get you killed because it depends on, I think, the caliber. We try to put it in different levels.
Right.
We try to put it in different socioeconomic classes, that this is what people do. They jump up in each other's face. They do this. The whole concept needs to be something that becomes a part of your everyday living, that you stop and you think about what was just said to me. How was it said? How did I respond? Because I think people, young people especially, do what they see other people doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they're in a single family household, it's really difficult. That's why Darren and I try to make ourselves available to everybody that needs us. People need more education. Don't be afraid to seek help and to talk to someone.
Correct.
If you know it's happening, especially young people.
And if they're seeing this, especially
Yeah.
if they're seeing this from
Yeah.
their parents, or maybe the parents saw it from their parents, how do we get it to stop? Well, the buck stops here. It stops with me. And what I was thinking in the different conversations is looking at self, strong as self, and knowing what you can handle and what you can get back and what you can take. Maybe some people aren't ready for a relationship. Maybe some people don't want that.
Right.
And once you're in it, just like you're trapped. Maybe you feel like you're trapped in a relationship or something like that. I think when you look at self, and a lot of people in the different conversations on how to have a meaningful relationship, I think that if you really are true to yourself or who you are as a person, you don't have any regrets once you go into that relationship. I mean, most people are fighting these inner demons in a relationship, or they don't feel respected, or they don't feel like they got their turn at life, because time doesn't stop.
That's right.
It just keeps on going. So, all these frustrations that they bring into a relationship, and they feed off each other.
So two things, if I can, I'd like to address what you said. One, about they're seeing this behavior. Any behavior that's learned can be unlearned. Right? And two, when you say start with self, you have to start with self.
Right.
So you have to get your stuff together and make sure you're right to make sure if you care for someone else that they're all right. Because if you have trauma, you're dealing with demons, right? That stuff can come to the table and cause arguments and stuff like that, misunderstanding.
If you don't know yourself, how are you supposed to know?
Exactly.
And you know what, to piggyback on that, how do you, in this day and time and in this genre that we're in, how do you teach someone about self? When growing up, sometimes self was taught in classes. There were certain academic things that helped you sit down, take a look at yourself, take a look at everybody in your classroom, everybody you're around. But now it's so much going on in a classroom or in a setting that there's no self. You lose yourself in other people.
Right, yeah.
So you really don't know yourself. Some people are scared of themselves because what they feel, they can't act on. What they want to do, they can't do. So they have to do what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And I think part of domestic violence for our young people is fitting in. It has always been power and control. I don't care what age it is. But if a parent knows that their son or their daughter is inflicting this type of behavior onto somebody else, and they condone it by comments that they make, oh, well, he'll grow out of it. He's not going to grow out of it. Because there's no self. You aren't teaching him to grow out of it. We cannot take for granted that people are just going to grow up and change, especially when they have something that they see that is on a continuum. Everybody's doing it.
Right.
It happens in families. In some cultures, it is appropriate. It's a part of the culture.
Yeah. And, also, when we're talking about this, we're talking and also assuming that it's always the man that's
yeah,
doing this.
yeah,
It is not.
not.
It is not. I've had quite a few instances where the young lady was the aggressor, right? She'll hit the guy, and I've seen it with my own eyes multiple times. She'll hit him and then be like, "Do something! I dare you to hit me! I dare you to hit me!" Right? And she's continuing to hit him, call him out his name, and hit me, I'm gonna call the police. Hit me, I'm gonna call my daddy. Hit me, I'm gonna call my brothers, my cousins. They all gonna come. They gonna get you. I dare you. And as she's berating him, emasculating him with her words, right? And she's daring this young man to hit her, and he's using a lot of restraint.
Right.
And so those are things that are happening as well. So I just don't want to paint the light that this domestic violence or intimate partner violence is only perpetrated by men. It's done both ways.
So your business, and what does it do exactly, and how does it help the men?
So what I do with the men that are involved, I'm a certified anger management counselor. So I deal with them around anger management, and I also have a program called the Gender Accountability Empathy Men's Program. The acronym is GAIN.
Right.
I work with young men to change their minds about how they view and treat women, because a lot of them come from backgrounds and homes that disrespect women.
So you're easily accessible for people that need that.
Yeah, they're referred to me by other agencies, or I do groups, and we talk about it, because you don't know for example, I asked a young man, who was your role model the way you treat women? Where did you get, who is that? And they'll go on and say, well, my brother did this, or my uncle, or in my house, we respect women. So when I ask them where they get their role model from of how to treat women, then I can start addressing that individual.
And those are good talking points to help the people that come in and involved in that.
Yes.
And in your business too.
My business is kind of widespread.
Widespread, yeah.
Yeah, because I work with women and men that are both batterers and perpetrators.
Right.
And also working in human trafficking, I try to bring the domestic violence into that.
Right.
Because even though you are involved in a relationship that the basis of it is monetary, and you have become accustomed to this person putting their hands on you, it's not okay.
Right.
So I get a lot of referrals. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of men that are trying to keep their children, trying to do things with their children because their wife is the one that is abusive. But we have to remember about the elements and the types of abuse, not only physical, but emotional, psychological, spiritual, monetary. We have to look at all of these things that are precursors to this. So most of the men that I'm seeing right now, there was no physical abuse, but it's a lot of mental and emotional abuse that takes place.
Oh, we will definitely have both of the information from our guests at the bottom and in the links on the page. If you have any questions about domestic violence, we'll have the number up there. Any emergencies, please call 911. But this has been put on the table, and I'm your host, Dietrich.
Thank you.